There's actually a large group of Montgomery County residents who are they're trying to put poles, small cells in front of homes, and I forget the name of it, but they
DAS. Oh, the
M-
DAS.
oh,
Oh, you mean the coalition?
yeah,
Yeah.
and there was a statement issued. They submitted to the FCC saying we need the review first. We need standards set to we need to review this issue, then put more transmitting antennas up, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, and to clarify from our perspective here is that it's not our what I've heard from the majority of your put is that it's not a desire to have hold Verizon legally responsible for whether they follow FCC guidelines. It's does this group of people believe that without any question that there's no risk to the students? And if we believe that there's no risk to the students and the school can get some income and some better cell service, then it would be, why not? On the other hand, if there is or believed to be a potential risk to our kids and the kids that come behind us, then our support or lack of support goes to that, and then the question becomes, does the money even matter? But it's not so much is Verizon following the FCC standards? I think to your point, the FCC standards could be off, and there are things that we may not know. So, did I capture that okay? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, we think that the FCC standards, and actually many scientists working on this, believe that they are sky high compared to what they need to be. And there's really new technology that can be researched and developed so that we can have technology that's safe. There's a lot of options actually and solutions. It's not that people are using cell phones more and more. It's that let's figure out how to make our technology safe, and that's moving forward as well. Glad to talk to you about that for anyone who's interested.
I do have a question. When you guys showed us the map, the graph, and it showed like the 1,000 is or 10,000, whatever it was, that's the FCC, and then yours is all the way down here. What was that actual number?
Below 1%. Let me just point out that the bar graph that compares United States to other countries was not quite 100% correct. The FCC exposure limits are frequency dependent, depending on the frequency. And it is correct that above gigahertz, the exposure limits are at 1,000 microwatts per centimeter squared. But at 700 megahertz and 850 megahertz, they're considerably lower than that.
What are they?
For 700 megahertz, it's 497 microwatts per centimeter squared. The reason the exposure limits are higher for above gigahertz is because studies have shown that absorption to human beings, including children, is far less. Absorption of radio frequency energy is far less at those higher frequencies because of the shorter wavelength. And for that reason, that's for the lower frequencies. The exposure limits are lower.
Except that the cell tower is not only going to be emitting just those frequencies, they are also going to be emitting a variety of frequencies. And the other thing I'd add is at this conference in Israel, we actually were talking about sub-millimeter and millimeter frequencies, which only penetrate about 4 pieces of paper into the body, like you said, much less the higher you go, but that they prefer the sweat gland, and the sweat glands become helical antennas. This research is going to be presented at the BEMS, the Bioelectromagnetic meeting, which is happening in China like next week, I guess. So it doesn't mean that it's not harmful just because it penetrates less. In fact, this effect, we had a top physicist who was presenting this research saying, look, we have got to take a look at this before we say this is safe, because even though it doesn't penetrate as deeply, it's impacting our sweat glands in a unique way. and there's definitely a biological impact. But that tower is gonna be emitting all kinds of frequencies, or is it only gonna be emitting that one little that one?
No, it's not.
Okay,
It's
so
typically.
it will be emitting all the other
Absolutely,
frequencies,
absolutely,
which
but what I'm
was
saying is
showing
you're
you.
quoting the worst, upper limit.
But that's
there.
because the majority of our technology has been using that until you're moving into the higher ones, so. I could show you a comparison of the other ones too.
We need to, move through some
Yeah, we are running out of time, so I'm gonna, quickly cover a little different direction of questions, and I think we hit every question that's been asked in some way or another, other than these so far.
I had a location question, but I don't feel very satisfied. It wasn't really one of those things, but could somebody just exhibit A1 describe all those, like, my question was, where is the maintenance crew coming in and with this current, like, if somebody could just describe what this is all about.
That's good.
A little bit more specifically, yeah. Like, where are the kids gonna be playground wise and, so I'm sorry, yeah, I just need a little bit more detail.
As far as the technicians that'll access the site, it would, it's through this road to the parking lot on the side
That's
here.
the entrance.
So
Can you
that's-
point the entrance to
Yeah,
the
point the
parking
entrance.
lot so she can see what you're talking about?
Right here.
So that's Neelsville Church
Yeah,
Road.
exactly, this is Neelsville Church right here, exactly.
She has the same
She
slide
has
in her
it.
PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would just be easier.
Yeah,
Are you able
that'll be
to load
easier.
that up?
It's smaller, I'm sorry,
So-
I thought it was gonna be bigger.
That's okay.
That's
So,
much older.
this right here
Yeah, it was
is,
done by another Indian firm.
That's
Okay.
another
Sorry.
firm.
I apologize, I'm sorry.
it's, it looks accurate to you though, right? I mean, as far as.
No, it's not.
Oh, sorry, it was,
Let's go with them. Yeah, let's go.
Oh,
with
what's the
them.
difference?
Is it different?
What's the difference?
Well, this is the one that we're using, so this.
That's a
Yeah, but
different-
is there a difference?
This one was submitted.
That's an
as part of the
older version,
application
yeah.
As
to
long
the
as
tre-
we can tell what, I think she's saying
You can
is
tell them.
from where we are, we can't tell where the entrance is or
That's what
what
he's-
road that is.
yeah,
So
we
go
just need to
ahead.
orient
Go
it.
ahead
Yeah,
and
so
do
the
what you're
entrance,
doing.
the entrance to the parking lot is right here,
Okay.
and this is the school, parking lot over here. Tennis courts, this is the building, I think, that. we were
Infant
referring to.
toddler.
And then we have the, over here, we have the fields, open area, and behind the school here, near the dumpsters, these two rectangles is where we propose the compound.
And then there's a dock here too, the building services, and then there's a line of trees here.
So you would definitely still go in the parking lot and use, you're not building another road?
No,
to
yeah,
this.
they'll use the existing, building services
But
driveway. I
also,
guess, there's an entrance for the building services back
Yes.
there?
Once the site is installed, and this is just a factual answer to your question, these sites are monitored remotely, and there's maybe, what is it, about 4 visits a year now?
4 minutes, yep, every couple
per
months.
carrier?
Okay, so it's unmanned, there's nobody that's there every day. So there's a few annual visits just for maintenance.
Right.
So I just don't want you to have the impression that there's somebody coming there every day or every week. It's pretty infrequent.
Except in the summer, they have to mow and get down weeds and stuff.
there's no grass back there.
Is it
There's no-
The compound is
will
gonna have,
be.
it's a gravel compound.
It's
And
a gravel.
it's also, you saw a picture up there of a school site that had the chain link fence and everything was very visible. This
And
is,
it's had a lot of growth in it.
this
And a
is
lot of growth.
board-on-board fence.
Yeah, there's board-on-board
So-
fence here that's gonna be 100%.
And so do those employees of Verizon or whomever's coming have to be vested as much as the volunteer parents that come into the
Oh, yeah.
school? Do
They
they
can
have to go
check
through
in.
the whole new MCPS policy of,
Yeah, it's all stated in the lease, the Maryland Child Protection Officer, that language is.
Could I ask a quick question? How often per carrier, if it's just Verizon, let's say it's a couple carriers, does each carrier come 4 times? You said about.
Each carrier handles their own maintenance.
Ah. How
I'm
much
speaking
does-
for Verizon Wireless,
Yeah.
but I don't know why it would be substantially more. I can't tell you that,
It'd be
but
about
I
4
think it
times.
would be.
These sites are maintained remotely. The technicians don't have a need to come to the sites as much as they used to years back. They can do everything they need from a remote location.
Right, but you said about 4 times a year, and that's just for Verizon, right? Okay, so if there's a couple more carriers, that would make more, like an apartment building, there'd be more companies on the tower, and then they would be doing their maintenance
The
too.
most there could be beyond, I shouldn't say the most, we're required that there be space available for 3 carriers.
3.
So Verizon Wireless and 2 others. The reality is, once you get to a certain level on a pole, carriers aren't gonna wanna go below that. So,
But can't you
It
add
shouldn't
20
be-
feet without, you can add 20
Well,
feet, right?
we can't just one day decide we're gonna add 20 feet, there's a process for that as well.
But the,
I'm just answering your basic question, which is, I can tell you what Verizon Wireless does. I think Rich has indicated for other carriers, it's probably about the same, but I don't speak for other carriers.
Mm.
You can ask other carriers.
I just know you can go 20 feet with a very simple
Well,
process by
Today's
law.
proposal is a 150-foot
Right.
tower.
But it can go up to
170.
170.
The 12 sites we haven't had anybody extend
And
extend a pole.
Right, and 150 feet is below the allowable maximum in the county.
We haven't had anybody approach
So,
to extend.
since a lot of people were asking questions to try to understand where it is, since I'm familiar with this, I coached baseball here on that field for, I don't know how many years. So, if you drive around the building and there's a place where you start to hit gravel and then, grass and so forth, or where it used to be grass, but people put a park on it, you'll be looking at the baseball field. To the right of that, which is our building, you'll see the loading docks, and you'll see the 2 sets of brown doors that are right there. This is, right here is where the baseball teams park. And this is the T-ball field. These are the softball and baseball fields. These are the T-ball fields over here. Knowing the landscape of that as well as I do, this is probably the first one to give an opinion, that's really close.
I've been to the soccer field once, so, but I didn't.
Yeah, and from a measurement perspective, if you've got a 150-foot pole and it breaks off at 75 feet as it's supposed to, it's still gonna hit the building.
I just want to clarify too, that
Still also.
the pole is not going to break off. I mean, I'm a structural engineer by trade. I've analyzed these many, many times. I've analyzed thousands of these poles. And I know that, failure is defined as the material deforming more than the limits set forth. So the pole is not going to collapse. It's meant to have, when I say an inherent weak point, at the midpoint or above the top of the pole or above the midpoint of the pole, the pole is just going to excessively deflect and stay in that position. That's considered a failure. It's not considered a full collapse or a partial collapse of any kind. So I just want to make that clear.
But can I add something that, I didn't talk about this in my PowerPoint, but the Department of Labor and OSHA have written about not necessarily the poles falling down, but the fact that things fall off the tower, that things do fall and hit the workers down below. In fact, there have been so many deaths that they wrote a letter saying we need to do more in terms of safety, especially for the guys working on the tower. And you can read about that. So things do fall off the tower as well. There's all these parts that are up there, and things certainly can fall. And while you're working on it, things possibly could fall. You could drop something or a tool that you're working on. But you can read about the Department of Labor. In fact, there was a PBS piece all about this cell tower safety issue as well, with a lot of concerns raised.
John, I have one more question, and it's more of a macro question for Mr. Lawrence. If you're interested in earning revenue on the property, Board of Ed on the property, do you get applications from other retailers or vendors? I'm curious about the process of leasing out the property that is owned by the Board of Ed. So for example, if my gym came to you and said we wanted to open up a my gym on our property, on your property, would you entertain that application? And why
No.
is it that you have these relationships with cell towers,
Well,
carriers
it's a
only?
telecommunications, essentially like a utility. The other aspect of it too is, they don't take, when you look at the size of the school sites, they don't take much land. And for, MCPS, it's, a passive revenue source, to be honest with you. We give them this section of land, and the Verizons and T-Mobiles, they come in and manage it. So we don't have to provide, like, for example, we have some closed school sites where we lease to private schools. And we provide, building services for them as part of this lease. So that's, it's more of an intensive, And that's the other aspect of what we lease our closed school sites for.
I can see the passive revenue being attractive. I wonder if you have